What's up YouTube? Welcome back to a new video. Today we're talking about how to fly a helicopter. I'm always flying this aircraft in my videos, and I think we should talk about how I even fly these. Once you have some time and some hours and experience, it's like riding a bike. You don't ever forget it. You could just do it without thinking. But the first 10 hours of flying a helicopter are very grueling, very boring, very frustrating because you're trying to figure out how to do it. It just doesn't make any sense. So we're going to talk about it today. I would not just jump in a helicopter and do this stuff, but we are for the sake of this video. The best way to describe a helicopter's controls is like, say you're going down the highway in your car and you make a turn to the left. In a helicopter, if you went left, the car would wait 2-3 seconds, then it would make the left. Well, then you'd be like, oh, I made too much of a left turn, so I need to go back right. And so you're in this like constant over controlling. You're trying to figure out what it's gonna do. There's a delay on the helicopter. It's not intuitive on what you should do next. It's not like, okay, so the helicopter's moving forward, I need to go back a little bit. That's just not the case. It's very frustrating. And if you think that's the case, you will over control the helicopter or make sudden movements that aren't necessary. That's how little of the movements it takes in order to make the helicopter go forward, back, left, right. Keep in mind, this is all at a hover. In forward flight, it is still very sensitive, but you know, if you want to go left, you do it a little bit more dramatic than you would at a hover because everything is very, very sensitive at a hover. Let's jump in it. I'm going to show you guys how it works. I'm going to go up, down, left, right, and show you just the very basics of that. Before I even start, most of the areas that I fly, I don't need a flight plan or anything. I don't even need to talk on the radio because most of it's uncontrolled or untowered parts of St. Louis in Missouri. So usually I'm just telling other pilots what I'm doing. Like right now, I'm just going to pick up the hover and I'm just going to say what I'm doing. I don't need to file anything. I don't need to get approval. I'm just going to do it, which is really nice. You can't do that in every airport, but for this one you can. Basic stuff here. I'm going to start off and unfriction the controls, which means that I'm just going to loosen them. They get friction and they tighten up so that way I can do different stuff when the helicopter's on the ground. So now all the controls is loose, as you can see. Here's the collective, that means the low rotor RPM. Okay, I'm going to bring it up to 100% from idle to flying, which in an R22 is about 102%. So the main rotor blades don't really change how fast they're going all the time. They pretty much spin at one speed. What happens is, in order to get lift, the collective, which is this right here, which I raise and lower, changes the pitch of the blades to go like that, and it picks up lift that way. Or the angle of attack goes down and it decreases its lift. So what I'm doing here is I'm going up or down with this lever right now. If I go up, the helicopter goes up. If I go down, the helicopter goes down. So I'm going to pull in that, and the helicopter should come straight up. I'm having to make small little inputs on the cyclic here. I'm going forward, back, left, right constantly because the wind's changing, and I'm not going to try to explain what I'm doing here. It's just something you have to sit there and learn how to do with a flight instructor. But once you learn how to hover, you're pretty much only changing this right here. The collective is staying in one spot. I have it friction slightly, so it doesn't just drop off or anything. So I'm just sitting here right now. I'm not changing this. I'm barely touching the up and down lever. So what I'm doing is I'm changing the nose of the aircraft's direction, just like rudders. So if I want to go left, I push on the left pedal. If I want to go right, I push on the right pedal. It's simple as that. So what I'm doing is I'm constantly making small little movements to keep myself forward. Obviously, I don't want to just be spinning in circles. I could, but that's not what I want to be doing. So now you know what the pedals do. They change the direction that I want to face. This lever goes up and down. So here, let's just mess with the lever really quickly. So if I want to go up, I'm just going to pull up on this lever, and look at that. I just go right up in the air. Okay? I go down on the lever. I'm taking some out. So look, now we're coming down. And we're coming down still. So it doesn't take a lot to come down or go up. The controls are very, very sensitive. One way when you learn how to hover a helicopter, your flight instructor will probably tell you is like, think about what direction you want to go, and it will do it. Meaning that you just barely move the cyclic or collective and it goes. For instance, if I want to go left, look how much I move it and it goes left. Alright, really quick I will explain the cyclic. So the cyclic is pretty much the center of the helicopter. Imagine this is the top of the rotor. and I'm controlling where we want to go. So if I want to go to the left, I push it to the left. Barely. You can see I barely move that to the left. If I want to go to the right, I push it to the right. If I want to go back, I push it backwards. If I want to go forward, I push it forward. So it's very sensitive, as you can see. We're just like going all over the place just right there. Now that we have pretty much the basics, I will show you what happens when you put all three of these things together. So, say I'm making a left turn. I want to stay over the same spot, so I'm using this collective to stay over the same spot, and I'm increasing altitude all at the same time. So I'm increasing this lever, down. Now that you guys understand how to hover a helicopter, you can start flying it. One thing I'll do before we start flying is I'll just show you how I touch down. So most of the time, you want to just be surprised when you hit the ground. You just want to keep coming down, coming down, coming down. But once you get more experience as a pilot, you can really cushion your landing so that it looks really good. So here, I'll cushion my landing here. So basically, say I'm coming down, right? I'm going to make it look really nice, so you barely even notice it. In the helicopter, it always feels like really dramatic, like you had a bad landing, but when you're looking outside, it looks really smooth. In order to hover, I'm using all three elements of flight, which are the pedals, the cyclic, and the collective, all at the same time. I'm adjusting my altitude, how high I want to go with this lever here, called the collective. I'm changing left to right, forward back with the cyclic right now, and then the direction that I'm facing with the pedals. So all three of those, and you are good to go. Now if you want to combine all three of those and get into forward flight and start moving, it's really simple. You just pull in a little bit of power to go up and move the nose forward. You don't really have to change the pedals too much, and you'll just start to cruise. So that's really all there is to it. Right now I'm going to try to hop in this pattern here. So let's try to figure out how to get into forward flight.
St. Charles, traffic 737 West Quebec, going around 9er, St. Charles.
Because we're doing some basics here, we're going to go really, really slow, and we're just going to taxi to the runway. So normally in a helicopter, you never have to use a runway, but in big helicopters, you have to do this because they're so massive that they'll blow so much stuff around that everybody wants them to stay on the runways and taxiways. So here, we're going to just follow this yellow line, and we're essentially just going to taxi straight to the runway. We're doing a basic lesson. This isn't normally what I do, but if it was on my first day of flying, you want to stick to the basics, and this is what we would do. All right, we're getting to the runway here, so I'm going to call my departure.
St. Charles traffic, helicopter 939, Sturtel is taking the active way, runway 9, making left closed traffic for 9er. St. Charles.
We're at a hover right now on the runway. In order to get into forward flight and start moving, I just bring in a little bit of power using the collective to go up, and I push the nose forward, and we just start cruising like this. But once I gather some airspeed, kind of like an airplane, I just pull back on the collective, and we start to fly up. We get really... That's like a normal takeoff the FAA likes you to do in a helicopter, because in an engine failure, if it were to happen, you have enough airspeed and altitude to safely conduct an auto rotation. Most helicopters don't do that because helicopters operate in areas that you just cannot, you don't have a runway to do that in. But when you do have a runway, you're supposed to do it like that. So now that we're in forward flight, all I'm changing, I'm not really touching the pedals at all. I have my collective here, which I'm changing my altitude to get a good altitude. And then of course I'm changing my direction. I just made a left turn, so I put the collective to the left. So right now in forward flight, it's pretty easy. It's not as hard as in a hover. So if I want to make a left turn here, all I'm doing is just pushing this collective, or I'm pushing the cyclic over to the left, and the helicopter is just turning like that. So in order to descend and land the helicopter, pretty much I'm going to do two things. Right as I'm set up on my approach course, which means the area that I see and I'm entering, which I'll show you guys, that'll be in about a second here. So right about here I see the runway. I'm going to shoot for the number. I want to land right on the number like that's a helipad. It says runway 9. So right now I'm at 50 knots and 1,000 feet. I'm just going to constantly hold a descent using the lever to go down and this cyclic. I'm just going to keep it constantly, I'm just coming down at a constant angle this whole time.
So as I'm working on that, I'm making small changes to the collective. I'm not really changing my cyclic because I want to keep my airspeed the same. So my airspeed is going to be about 50 to 60 knots, and as you get closer to the ground, you want to be slower. So my flight instructor always used to tell me the lower you go, the slower you go. The lower you go, the slower you go. The lower you go, the slower you go. But as we get closer to the ground, we're not going to be going as fast. Like our descent rate isn't going to be as fast, and we're not going to be going as forward, and our forward speed isn't going to be as fast. St. Charles traffic, helicopter 939, short tow, short final, runway 9, St. Charles. So, as I'm short final here, I see my landing spot. I'm coming down slowly. All I've been changing is the selective, but I've also been bringing the cyclic here aft, back to slow up the helicopter. As we come down here, it's the same what we talked about earlier. It's literally, I'm just coming into a hover. I'm flying the helicopter into a hover, and then that's it. That's really all there is to it on all aspects of flight in the helicopter. Now I'm at the ground. This would be the helipad. And all I would do is just touch down on the skids. And we're here. That was it. Alright, I'm going to show you guys something cool that that we were taught. So if, say I'm going down the runway, say I'm like spraying corn or whatever, I'm at a low altitude, right, like I am right here, and I see a tree or something in the last second. It's called a quick stop. So you want to avoid it. Avoid the obstacle. Best way to do that is just the way I did. So that was a quick stop. Basically what I did there is I saw an obstacle at the last second and I stopped the helicopter. I pushed down on the collective and went aft on this cyclic to bring it back to kind of like a flare position just to stop the forward airspeed so I didn't hit it. Now that I'm at a hover, I just take back off. St. Charles traffic, helicopter 939, Sir Tel is on the go. Runway 9, left close traffic, St. Charles. Alright, well, so let's see some other things as well. Oh, this is something that's actually pretty fun to do. That is pretty much how you fly a helicopter. It's 3 things of flight. Now, as a student, you learn one individually at a time, so it's not very confusing. And then you build all 3 of them. Alright, so now I'm going to show something that not a lot of people have ever seen. This is called a running landing, and what it is basically if your helicopter had a tail rotor failure or you were limited on power and you wanted to land just like an airplane, you can do that. Let me show you guys how exactly that works. I'm going to come in just like I'm in an airplane, like I have wheels on the ground even though I don't, and I'm just going to skid the helicopter right on the ground while moving forward. So watch this.
St. Charles traffic, 737 Whiskey Quebec, crosswind, runway 9, St. Charles.
That was it.